The West Virginia Mountaineers signed a lot, and I mean a lot, of speed. We need to talk about who that is and how they factor in right now.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, guys? Welcome back in. My name is Mountaineer Paul. I am your host here. Welcome back into Locked On West Virginia as we go head-to-head with the Super Bowl here at 7 o'clock. I understand that there are a lot of people probably doing that, and that's fine with me. You guys can, if you're not watching now, you can watch later is the way I look at it. Thanks for making us your first listen here, guys. We're going to go to our channel sponsor for the second here. This one's going to be brought to you by Mazda. Right now with Mazda, we put that same drive into every detail. We define the moment by putting in the work, and that defines you. Stay tuned for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward, because there's more to Mazda because there's more to you. Thanks for making us your first listen, guys, and for being a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're talking about your team, the Mountaineers, every single day. So obviously I have been doing my due diligence. I told you guys we would start a series where I started breaking down, certain players and certain position groups and certain different things like that. So I went ahead and started with the group we need to really impact us the most. And like the title says, West Virginia signed a lot of speed. And where is that at, right? Well, it's at wide receiver, obviously. When you look at who West Virginia signed out of the JUCO ranks, Kendrick Triplet, Keon Hutchins, and then we can't forget Martavis Boswell either. Those three specifically have as much speed as any other position group that you're going to find on West Virginia's team this year. So we're going to be looking at those guys. We've got some cut-ups and some film of them to break down here so that you guys can see exactly what they bring to the table. And we've also got a pass rusher that we haven't broken down on the channel by the name of Noah Tishendorf, and somebody that he sent me his tape months ago, and I meant to get to it, and I haven't been able to do that yet. He's on the thumbnail, and he's a guy that I certainly believe in as far as a guy that could impact the team. For those asking, no, I won't watch the Super Bowl. I'm not going to get into why. I don't align with the way that entire thing is going right now. So, I'll probably be watching a different halftime show. Like I'm not going to get into it, but just not my cup of tea, So let's move on though. As far as I go, guys, like I said, these dudes, man, are extremely good players, and I think they all have a chance to make an impact for West Virginia this year, which is exciting. So let's start. I'll go ahead and start with probably the number one player. I mean, you can take it either way. I mean, it's like 1A and 1B in the sense, but that's Keon Hutchins. They call him Headball, which I would love to know the name behind that. Why is that? Because, this is a guy that was the number one ranked wide receiver in all of JUCO, right? So West Virginia didn't just dip into JUCO. If you look at all the players they signed, which is like about 10 guys out of JUCO, they attacked it. And a lot of these guys were what you would consider big-time top 10 JUCO players in all of the nation. So West Virginia went and got the best they could find out of JUCO, and I think that's smart. This isn't depth for depth's sake. This is production, speed, and some edge play. And we're going to be talking about four guys, four different roles, all four signed. We got to start with the headliner and Headball Hutchins, who is 6 feet, 180 pounds, a JUCO receiver out of Northwest Mississippi Community College, listed as having 4.2 40 speed, 34 catches, 635 yards, and 6 touchdowns last year. And he had multiple nuclear games, guys, 200 yards and multi-touchdowns. The trait breakdown for him is this. He's got legitimate speed, which shows up on film. Field tilting speed. Safety altering speed. He's got the ability to go vertical at all times. On go routes, posts, slot fades, deep overs. His ball tracking is really good. And that might be where he got the name Headball from, right? So if you look at his explosiveness, his yards per catch screams chunk plays. similar to Cam Vaughn last year, I would say, in a way, like that, where he's just always open down deep. He's going to be a defensive coordinator problem, because he's going to force you to play off coverage and stuff like that. If he ends up being productive at West Virginia, because I know he's got the speed, but does he have all the other things? That's what you wonder about, because he's going to be a guy that's going to force you to have safety help and force play call changes. So can he become a complete route runner and not just a downfield missile? He shows the ability to do double moves and different things like that on tape, in my opinion. So he comes in as an immediate deep threat package. His ceiling is probably West Virginia's most dangerous, explosive wide receiver. His floor is, a guy that comes in and gets you 20 catches or something, maybe 15 catches. So we'll start with his film right now and dive straight into it, because there's no reason to wait. Let me make sure I've got the right one. Let's see. I think it's this first one here. Yeah, so this is Headball Hutchins right off the bat. And you'll see right away, he gets way behind the defense on this play, has to slow down for the ball, and catches it around 2 or 3 defenders. We'll see a better angle here. Watch the move he puts on the corner here. Boom, he's to the inside, and he is gone. He's Randy Mossing it. Hold up that left hand. That's that 4.2 speed that he was talking about, I would imagine. If you start to look at other things he does on the field right here from the slot, look at him in the slot, coming in motion, coming across the quarterback space, wide open. They've got him one-on-one coverage. They go ahead and run a little screen his way. And as you can see, he can put his foot in the ground and cut. And then once he starts to stretch out and get into his stride, he is really tough to catch. So absolutely, this guy's playing 8-9 yards off of him here, and it doesn't matter. He still runs a double move on him, and they go to the back shoulder, and nice play, Keon Hutchins. You start to look at a couple other things. There's a couple other plays on here that I like that he does as well. I think there's one right here from the outside, as you can see down low. Nice move to the inside and then a post, and a nice play on the ball there from the outside here. Similar play from earlier. They're just throwing him the screen to the inside, and look, he is gone. I do think they trip him up here. Somebody got his feet. Here he is from a bunch formation. They run a same play. Should have been picked, but he takes off and is absolutely gone. I don't know what happened there. He must have tripped over his own foot. But yeah, so that's a guy that you absolutely. What are you going to do with him, right? He's a guy that can make play after play for West Virginia, I think, this coming year, and somebody to be excited about. Moving on to number 2 is Kendrick Triplet, who is a slot receiver at 5'11". I don't think he's 5'11". I think he's 6'2", from what I read. I think he's 6'2". I don't know why I have 5'11" here. I think that's for Martavis Boswell. He's a slot receiver that runs 4.3. So he's another guy, and I've seen that on film. He does run 4.3. He's a guy that, when you look at him, he's got kick return. He's got punt return experience. He's got multiple 100-yard breakout games last year. And he is not a finesse kid. He really likes yards after contact. He's got burst. His versatility, whether he's in slot or in motion or in the backfield, makes him dangerous, and his speed is functional, man. It's not fake speed at all. He's really good. I think he's a quarterback security blanket. He's a mismatch versus linebackers and nickels, and he can be a red zone weapon for West Virginia this year. Can he operate consistently versus Big 12 nickel corners? That's going to be interesting to see, because I think his projection is he's going to come in and be a potential rotational slot guy. And if he can be the guy in that room, it gives you another guy with Keon Hutchins type speed. Let's watch the film here. As you'll see, he is another guy that can just go deep on you. Boom. Hit him right in the middle of the field, right? Nice play. So, these guys are going to have, from what I understand, and here it is right there, 3rd wide receiver in the country, ranked 4.340. And he was ranked 3rd in the JUCO rankings out of all the receivers in the nation. Similar to what they did with Hutchins, you can see they just throw it to him in the backfield and let him do the rest. And he is a very similar player to Hutchins in that way. And they're both big time speed guys. Rich Rod wanted more speed on the field, and I think he got more speed on the field with these two guys. So as you see him working from the slot here, nice play to the outside. And as you can see, man, that was a tough play to make, around a lot of different guys. So once again, somebody is, capable at making plays in traffic, which is important. As you can see here, which this play took forever to tip off, didn't it? Here he comes across the middle on a rub route. As you'll see, that receiver, his corner gets right in the way of him. And but I mean, nice speed on the way back down the field. These guys are going to be, I think, important this year. At least one of these guys, I think you got to hit on this year. They both may eventually be contributors, because I like I was told, West Virginia, all the JUCO guys at West Virginia got, especially a couple of the defensive linemen they really need to make an impact right away. So, and we've broken down the defensive linemen from JUCO. Like, we know that the linemen are my favorites of the bunch. I do like the receivers too with Boswell. I think they've all got a chance to make an impact. Now, I don't know, is it going to be every down receivers or anything I don't know about that, but I do think these guys are guys you can put in the game that you can, West Virginia had a receiver a couple years ago with Neil Brown that came in from Marshall. I wish I could remember his name, but he's a guy that West Virginia would just send him deep, and West Virginia would take shots at him. And it was actually a big help for West Virginia. And he actually made some big plays downfield, but he was a guy that was so fast that you had to keep track. So, can West Virginia have enough? Because you've got to have guys that can layer their routes in and around the field. You can't just have guys that go deep all the time. You've got to have guys that can play in the middle of the field. You got to have guys that can work the outside and boundaries and just everything, right? But I mean, for the most part, in Rich Rod's offense, the number one kind of receiver you need is either going to be a guy that can control possessions and just get you first downs so that you can keep the chains moving. A tight end in the middle of the field is always good too. So like he serves both purposes. Or you just need a guy that can get downfield. There's a couple of variations we've seen for Rich Rod on that, right? There was also the Darius Ray-Nod version where it's like, okay, we might not have elite receivers, to just stand back there and throw it around. But what we do have is these gadget guys that you can hand it off to, like Tavon Austin type players. The two I use the most, the two I associate with Rich Rod the most are Jock Sanders and Darius Ray-Nod, right? Two guys that you can just give the ball to. You can even, like on Darius Ray-Nod, how many reverses did Darius Ray-Nod run in for touchdown? Honestly, so many, right? So Ray-Nod's a guy that I look to, the prototypical Rich Rod slot receiver. He's a guy that can get deep. He's a guy that can, he's like a running back at slot receiver kind of, right? But he's fast enough to get deep. So, can West Virginia get the kind of guy again in this program? Because it was Darius Ray-Nod specifically and Jock Sanders were both just so instrumental because they were that wild card. They were that curveball that you could throw in there from reverse or from, the tip pass, or which they didn't run with them, but you could. You can do anything with them. You can do the inside shovel pass. You can just throw it to them. A lot of important stuff there. So, all right, let's get to break. I think it's time to move on to another player here that I haven't broken down on the channel yet, and I'm excited to do it next. Stick around. And of course, we can't go anywhere without talking about our friends at Indeed College, right? Guys, when it comes to Indeed, if you don't know, this is a good spot, right? Because Indeed is a place where if you're hiring, it's not just about finding someone willing to take the job. It's about finding the right person with the right background who can actually help your business move forward. And if you want candidates who match what you're looking for, Indeed sponsored jobs is the move. And hiring isn't just about finding somebody willing to take the job. It's about finding the right person with the right background who can actually help your business move forward. And if you want candidates who match what you're looking for, Indeed sponsored jobs is the move. And because instead of hoping for the right person stumbling across your post, Indeed helps you match with quality candidates by boosting your job listing to the people who fit your specific criteria, life skills, certifications, and location, right? So if I were hiring, I wouldn't just want someone who can help. I'd want someone with experience that's real that can jump right in. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to the data, Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners to the show can get $75 sponsored job credit to help your job get the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast, where the terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way. Do it with Indeed. And of course, in segment 2, we do have a do to crack for you and with you. And thank you guys for sticking around and watching this while the Super Bowl was on. I didn't even pay attention to the time until it was too late, so that's my fault. I should have scheduled it around this, but it's all good. You guys can watch this after that aren't here now. Okay, so another player we're going to be watching this year is Noah Tishendorf, who is a bandit/edge player. He's 6'3", 250 pounds. And he was a two-way player in high school where he played tight end and defensive lineman, and it shows. 147 tackles, 56 tackles for loss, and 26 sacks. That was the career he had. What a relentless player he was. And he lives in the background. His natural path to the quarterback is speed to power, which you see a lot. And in an edge setting, he can hold his edge. He can hold his ground in setting the edge. I think he fits in as a true bandit, very similar to player we had last year, I would say, that came in from Wyoming. So, they're very similar players, except this guy's bigger and all that. So, how fast does he develop pass rush counters here at West Virginia? That's going to be interesting to see. For now on tape, what you see him do is a couple different things. He's going to have counters to those things pretty soon at West Virginia. And hopefully they can get him ready for that. And Coach Green can get him ready for that, because I think he's going to be able to, he's going to be able to impact us in some pass rush packages early. And we'll see what his ceiling is, right? He could end up being a multi-year starter. But I do think that he's a guy that immediately, anyways, you have to look at him and say, I think he'll get some snaps, and I think he'll eventually work his way into the rotation. I like his film a lot. Let's show you guys Noah Tishendorf. Here he is in the middle, right? He's 6'3", 250, so he can play defensive tackle some, and he does that well, and he gives you some much-needed pass rush from the inside. Coming from the outside, he's very good. As you'll see on a lot of these plays, he just beats people, man. That's what he does, right? So he's a guy that comes in and just beats people with some speed. Sometimes it's hands. That was all hands right there. Nice hit on the quarterback and causing a turnover. Here he is in the edge playing bandit. As you can see, that's a bull rush. Great play there and a sack on the quarterback. And then here he is from the defensive end and just rushing in, getting to the quarterback. Great job there, defeating the blocks and everything. And on the edge again, up and underneath with the rip underneath the tackle. That's a great play. Love the bend coming around there. And as you can see him coming down to his 3-point stance and just fighting back to the inside to make a play. So he does a little bit of everything. I like that he can play multiple positions along the defensive line. He doesn't have to be an outside guy. Like if you wanted to put 20 pounds on him, get him 260, 270, he could absolutely be a defensive lineman. And if you go back one more time, you'll see him come off the edge. And that's just, you can't do that. That was basically unblocked there. Another time off the edge, just destroyed the tight end to get to the back. So he's a guy, here he is coming from the inside again. He beat 2 blocks to get there. He's just a guy that makes plays, man. He's always around the ball. Could he be an Eddie V type player someday? Or could he be, something else? I don't know. I mean, I do think he's got that kind of ability to be. I think he could play inside if you put enough weight on him, but I don't know if that's what you want to do or not, because he's got enough pass rushing wiggle and speed to be one of those, what I consider high motor sack guys. He's a guy that comes in and gets you 5 or 6 sacks just because of the motor. And I certainly believe that he's a guy that West Virginia can use this year. The edge room is wide open, and why not him? But it's definitely going to be, a unique room to see how it ends up working out. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see him in the 3 deep there in that room, a guy that's in the rotation early. And then if he proves he can do it at West Virginia, I don't see any reason why he can't be a major contributor. As a matter of fact, I think he will play because I think he can play inside and out. And that versatility makes you very, very, usable, right? Because you're 250, that's, in some packages, you can play inside at that. So, maybe you put some weight on and get to 265 or something, 270. Man, you're talking about and he's got enough athleticism where he would be really good from the inside as a defensive tackle pass rusher. I would like to see them go that route with him. If it was me and I was a coach in West Virginia, if his frame can handle it, I would probably put 25 pounds on him and say, okay, now you're 265 or 270. Let's see what you can do as just a straight athletic pass rushing style defensive tackle, right? And he'll be able to hold the edge, his ground inside and everything. And you might have something on your hands with him. So that's what I would do. But, I'm not the coach. They might want to slim him down and put him back on the edge. I have no clue. Going to break one more time. We'll put a bow on this one with Martavis Boswell right after the break. And we're talking about our friends at Game Time. And look, with Game Time, we know it. You know it. It's pretty simple, right? Because there's not enough, really, it's just so hard to get tickets. There's really nothing like being in an NBA arena with the crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that part hasn't always been so simple. That's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast. Without the hassle, by the way, it puts the advantage back where it belongs with the fans. And I pulled up the Game Time app, picked an NBA game, an upcoming one, and had tickets locked within minutes. I love seeing the all-in price up front with no fees to check out. And the zone deal stood out too. With the choose your selection, Game Time picks the seats, and then you save. Great last-minute options as well, with NBA tickets showing up at solid prices. Everything feels quick, intuitive, and stress-free from start to finish. So you can take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use that code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON for $20 off today. Download the Game Time app, and remember, it's gametime.co, not .com. Alrighty then. Thank you guys as well for being here one more time. Like I said, appreciate y'all for all you do and support the channel. I'd like to make sure you know that every day that you're here. Before we go, might as well remind you about the Locked On Everydayer Club. Would love for some of you guys to sign up for that. It would mean a lot to me personally if you could do that as a favor to me. But yeah, so I'll put the link to the Everydayer Club in the chat. It's ad-free audio. You can be a part of a server where you can talk to the hosts from Locked On Network, Drake Toll, myself, and others. And you can, just be one of the guys, and you can get inside information. A lot of those guys that work for Locked On are credentialed media members. It's really cool stuff. And I would highly suggest being in there. All right. So last but not least, we're going to talk Martavis Boswell. Not going to show his tape because I've shown it before on here a few times. He is obviously, when you're talking about impact players, I think he's probably the most likely, potentially of anybody on this list, to make an impact this year, just because he's the only other guy that's got experience playing anything but high school ball behind Cam Cook. And he's 5'9", he's 175. He was played at multiple places. Last year, he had 1,100 yards, 13 touchdowns, and 130 carries. Did you hear me? 1,100 yards, 13 touchdowns on only 130 carries. He had 7 games with over 100 yards where he's an efficient, explosive workload, man. His burst is immediate. His pull-away ability is unbelievable. He finds creases easily. He's a big play chunk guy. And I would love to see him get about 130 carries this year for West Virginia. I think that'd be great because he is a game changer at the running back spot if he's on. And, he's not a grinder. He's kind of a detonator, if you will. Like he's a guy that you toss in there on 3rd and 9 or 3rd and 10. You throw a screen to him and he goes for 60. That's what he does. Can he hold up in pass protection? That's my big question for him with interior traffic. That's going to be a big question. Can he be a change of pace back early? Because, he's not going to start. That's going to be Cam Cook, obviously. Listen, maybe he could win the starting job. I'm not saying he can't, but I would be shocked. But I do think he has running back 1 potential. But the thing is his size is my only concern there. So he would have to prove that he is capable to take that kind of a beating over the course of a year. I'm not saying he can't do it, but he's got some things to prove first. I do think, though, in a vacuum, like just talking about his explosiveness, there's a world where he ends up being a guy where kind of like, I'll tell you what the good comparison is last year. Obviously, we had a running back that was similar, and there's no reason to think that he can't be similar to a Sincere Bowers, right? So, except more touches. Last year's O-line was so bad, it was just the Sincere wasn't ready to make plays from behind the line of scrimmage. So, to bring this all home, I think this JUCO group gives West Virginia some speed, some disruption, some explosion. Tishendorf gives you a little bit of power too. And I think these are all functional football players, not really projects. Like all these guys are kind of ready to play. And I think that's what West Virginia went after. Hutchins stresses coverage. Triplet's going to be more of a chains mover that can get deep as well. Tishendorf is kind of a play wrecker. And Boswell is going to be a field flipper. He's going to be a guy that, you're 3rd and 9 on your own 20, and then it's a touchdown. Like that's what he does. So that's how you supplement the roster right away without having to spend a lot of money. And I think that this could be some big time additions for West Virginia out of JUCO. Obviously, ideally, every one of the JUCO guys would play and help. It's not going to be the reality. In reality, only 2 or 3 are. So if I had to choose, I would probably pick one of the receivers, one of the defensive linemen, and Boswell as being the 3, right? I would just spread it out. Hopefully that they do all end up hitting some every now and again. It happens, and that's how teams end up being really good. You just one year you get your evaluations right, and some guys you need to be good are, and that's kind of where West Virginia's at this upcoming year. We need some guys that we don't know what they are. We need them to be good. And so, in order for us to be a 9 to 10 win team in year 2, in my opinion, we're going to need some players like Jacob Bradford coming in from LSU to be one of the best safeties in the Big 12, or at least very good. Even though he's young coming in from LSU, and we're going to need, obviously the offensive line and defensive line, I think are going to be okay. But, we're going to need to cut a shutdown corner from somewhere, somehow, some way. Is that going to be one of those JUCO guys once again? That's actually, I may redo my list. Maybe I would make Rayshawn Reynolds or Damon Allen one of the shutdown corners. Maybe I would do that instead. But there's a lot to it, obviously. And I'm hoping and praying that all these guys work out this year. But remember, some of these guys are for next year too. And so while they might not hit this year, hopefully there's some guys that stick around long enough to catch on at West Virginia. Enjoy your Super Bowl Sunday, guys. I know that's what you guys are wanting to do, and I appreciate some of you guys for being here for this. It means a lot to me to even have close to 50 people in here for a thing is, as big as the Super Bowl. That's pretty good for me. I'll take it. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen. Have a great rest of your day. I love you guys. I'm out of here. Cue Country Roads.